Welcome to the app called the Spies of Mississippi. It's an appumentary, which is a digital application that tells a factual story using interactive tools not possible in a book or film, so the audience can engage, explore, and respond. This whole appumentary was inspired by an article that Rick Bowers read online about the sovereignty, about the Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission, which is a secret organization. And I didn't know about this secret organization until I started this project. After he did some research on his own, he went to libraries, databases, went down to Mississippi, interviewed people. He wrote this book, which now it's getting too dark to see in my little hotel room here. But he wrote a book. It's in the juvenile section of the library, so it's very accessible to our middle and high school level kids. Afterwards, he worked in collaboration with a woman named Nancy Porter, who worked on the documentary. And here they've made an appumentary so that we too can have that inquiry-based, revelational experience about what happened in those times. So as you can see, the menu is really simple. We've got the welcome, the story, the film, and your turn. This part about your turn is really where you'd want to focus on in terms of working and collaborating with teachers. There's some excellent things down here. In fact, let's work with the end in mind. I'm going to take you right down to your turn. And in this part, you're going to see, look, we've got lesson plans for middle school, high school, and all grades. My favorite part is right here with the all grades, the resources. Here in the resource section, we've got suggested reading, both in nonfiction and in fiction, which you'll see here. Teacher prep, lots of links. High school information, supplementary materials. This is where it gets exciting, I think. We've got links that take us to support for learning how to think differently, like chronological thinking, historical thinking, like in terms of analysis and interpretation, looking at research, focusing on details, working on the evidence. Now, of course, we've got links to the National Archives, but also this really cool part that I'm excited about is the analysis worksheets. We get to have some worksheets that help our kids work with written documents analysis, artifacts, cartoons, maps, motion pictures, photographs, posters, and sound recordings. Here, this is something that I believe we could probably use in a lot of different ways, not just for this content. All right. So I just love those resources. Over here, we've got activities already created for us when our brains are not feeling creative. We've got photo walk. We've got a museum exit, do some curation. We could link that with our curation work with our kids. But overall, I would think of working with our content area teachers, the American history teachers, the English teachers who are doing civil rights connected with To Kill a Mockingbird in 9th grade. And in 10th grade, the teachers tend to do a social justice paper, and this really hooks into that. So, let me see. Also, I want to mention there's discussion topics that connect us right to today. How is this relevant today? And that's really important to all of us. How are things relevant? We get to hear people talk to help us think about that question, if we want to do an essay question on that. And then we look at some quotes, all kinds of things to do some browsing. And of course, there's the documentary and there's the book that you couldn't see that was in the dark. And then, of course, the credits. So I'm going to zoom back to the beginning so you can see more of the really neat ways that this app is put together before we say goodbye. Hope you're noticing as I'm scrolling around how simple it is visually to look at. So you already saw the beginning. Here's our beginning. And here's the story. And the story actually happens that after Brown versus Board of Education, the governor of Mississippi wasn't real keen on this idea and wanted to do whatever he could to disrupt the progress of civil rights. So they made a secret organization called the Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission that started after the Brown versus Board of Education. And what they did is they paid informants. They got people from the KKK. They were able to get at least two that I know of African American ministers to also participate. They were paid. All kinds of people were paid to do surveillance through photography, video, joining in, pretending to be something they're not. And out of that time, 134,000 pages of files, 87,000 people were investigated. And then 3 summer volunteers were also killed from this secret organization. On every page, there's simple stuff to look at, and then there's something to click on, like this case, the video of the author. There's music they created for this. The filmmaker also talks about how relevant this is today. This is a great page to show you because here's the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education. We're going through a simple timeline, and I want you to notice over here in red, we can now tap to look at a primary resource. So take a look. We too can look at the documents that Rick Bowers looked at to do his research. And this is the actual Supreme Court ruling from that day. Really easy to get to. 1956. Again, there's something we can look at here. This is the actual bill that they commissioned, that they made a secret organization. Here's all the people involved. They took lots and lots of notes. They typed, and you'll notice most of his research was looking at typed items. And when you look at his appumentary, the font is also in type to kind of keep with the time period. So you can see going through the timeline, there are documents to look on each one. You'll notice you're not overwhelmed by too much imagery, and the documents come out really easy to look at. So in something that could have been bombarding us with lots of imagery, it's very easy to look at. I'm going to stop there because I think I've talked a little bit about how I would use it. I'm pretty sure you can see how easy it is to interact with this app. It only works on iPad as far as I can tell. I couldn't get it to work on my phone, but it is something I'm excited about using.